Hello.
Hello.
We are Lips and Lapbars.
And we are here today at Hansa Park.
As you've probably just seen. Now this is, it's been like a bucket list park as this one for quite a while now. Partly in due for Highlander, which is the tallest freestanding drop tower in the world, but mostly for Kärnan, which I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of later. But this is going to be the thing that possibly excites me for Hyperia, or destroys Hyperia, one of the two. Very similar sort of idea, hypercoasters with inversions, but this one just seems to be, really well themed. So looking forward to that. There's also Nessie, there's a UK themed area of the park, and there's quite a lot to look forward to at this one. So we will take you along for the ride and see what happens.
We will.
Speaking of taking along for a ride, we can't record on rides unfortunately here. I did request ahead of time, and they said no because of the safety features and things like that. It's absolutely fine. So one of those things, maybe in the years to come, I'll be back here at some point recording some on rides. But hey ho, we'll carry on as we are. There's some massive steps. Hello again.
Hello.
So we've just got off the Schwur des Kärnan, which I think is how you pronounce it, the Oath of Kärnan. And by God, that blew me away.
Yep, absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying, excellent. I will put spoilers here because there's quite a lot that you kind of want to experience for yourself. You can see for the most part, I'll show that in a moment. You can see for the most part the outside stuff, there's nothing to spoil there. But at this point, spoiler warning. Fair warning. You go into the queue line. The queue line it walks you through essentially like an archaeological dig museum kind of thing, doesn't it?
The queue line is impressively themed.
It's themed and it incorporates a lot of elements. So as we were saying, you go through this archaeological dig. You then come into a pre-show where the scientists are telling you that what they've found and what's going on, and that when you're going into the archaeological dig, you can't take bags and cameras and loose articles in case it damages the equipment that they've got there. At this point, the baggage thing opens up, so you put your bags in there. You then go into a room, and there's no.
You follow it a little bit through, and then you go into essentially a second room where it's basically selection. So you stand on a bit of the floor that's lit up, and then a little show happens around the room, and then essentially you get selected, and it's completely and utterly random.
It seems, so you could stand in any row, and you could be assigned front row. There's 4 rows, front row all the way back to the back row. We got second row on ours.
Even though we were stood in essentially what would be row 4 if they were numbered.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get back row because the way the selection order went, the furthest away from us got first, but they got back row.
Yeah.
We were the last. We got second row. So as I say, it's kind of random assignment. Excellent point up to that point. You then get on the coaster, you board it. It then goes through essentially a very dark section with a load of really loud music, which is really good, really builds sort of suspense. You can see the looming sort of lift hill in front of you. It's quite dark, but you can still just about see it. When the lift hill starts turning, obviously you can hear the lift motors, but they're playing chains. The sounds of chains. So it's almost as though the ride vehicle is being hoisted up by people on pulling chains. It then takes you up to the top. A little pre-show section happens while you're vertical, on the vertical lift hill, pointing straight up at the ceiling.
Which like row 2, I didn't see much. So I'm guessing sort of rows 2, 3, and 4. You can see the pre-show.
You do have to look between.
Kind of see it all.
Yeah, because I was bracing myself more so than anything because I didn't know what to expect. I knew that it got a vertical drop on the lift hill, but I didn't know how fast it was going to be or anything like that. So I was kind of bracing myself, not watching what was going on, but just expecting this drop. And yes, it drops, and it was not as insane as I was expecting, but it was still bloody cool.
Yeah, it wasn't as big a drop, to be fair, as what I was expecting. And when you look at the size of the building, you're just like, oh, that's going to be a fairly big drop. But no, the drop wasn't too bad for me. It was the transition from essentially the drop ride into making it back to a lift hill to come up to the top of the roller coaster.
It spends a lot of time.
It took a long while, and that for me was the worst bit. And then obviously you get up a vertical lift hill. The drop on the other side, I did not like at all. I really did not like. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind my vertical style drops. This one, though, absolutely threw me. And I think part of the reason it does throw you is because you go from near enough pitch blackness practically into brilliant sunshine, and it just throws you when you come out of it. It's just like, what?
No, I enjoyed it. It's a twisted drop, so you drop and then you turn 90 degrees and then you go into the ride part that you'll see here, and then obviously all the bit that you can see navigates that, and then it comes into the final brake run and you think the ride's done, still in the spoilers territory. That's where the Heartline roll is, because I read up that there was a Heartline roll and everyone was saying that it was up there, and I couldn't see it for the life of me. Figure out how it was. That's not an inversion, because essentially what that is a non-inverting butterfly. And you go through the brake run, and then much like Ride Tappers comes out the station into a JoJo roll, this one does one at the end of the ride. It then comes onto a sort of sharp brake run, and there's 4 flashes, and that's the camera. But it's in pitch black. So, the photo, I'll put the photo up here because the photo was brilliant. It kind of shows the reaction that we both had to the ride. Absolutely down to a T. But we've just talked for 5 minutes about Kärnan, which kind of tells you how much there is to experience with this ride. In terms of the outdoor section, it's pretty good. Bit on the rattly side.
I did not like the outdoor section at all, and I don't know whether it's because, like I say, assault on the senses, and the fact that essentially you're in a clamshell seat doing quite a high bit of roller coaster. That weren't my cup of tea either. So yeah,
it's getting
not going to be for me again. I don't think.
I'll ride that again. That is going to rank very highly. It's definitely not Fury Off. I don't know where exactly it's going to sit, but get out here and give that a go, because that is it's a proper thrill seekers roller coaster.
I just genuinely feel like you're in the Who's that? Back up. Yeah, that was a big scar one.
€11.90 gets you some fish and chips. So we've had a sort of a good once over of the park, and we figured now probably a good time to actually talk about some of the rides that we've been on, specifically Flucht von Novgorod, which is a right. So we've had a wander around the park and been on pretty much everything at least once that we want to go on, barring a few exceptions. So we thought now we'd start talking about some of the rides and experiences that we've been on, such as Flucht von Novgorod, which is Escape from Novgorod for all intents and purposes. And a little bit of facts about it. It's a Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster. It's the first launched Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster, and it's also the steepest roller coaster in Germany, as well as the steepest dark ride in the world, which is quite an interesting sort of fact on it. And it is bloody wonderful.
Yeah. We've now done it twice. We've just had our second go around, and the second time round a little bit more enjoyable because we knew what to expect and we knew where to kind of brace ourselves a little bit. But the one thing that Hansa Park does seem to like is 1, it's vertical lift deals, 2, it's pre-shows, 3, the pre-shows on the ride as well before you get to the main event.
Yeah, as well as the sort of themed dispatches, if you will. I will put spoiler warning here, so if you don't want to know what goes on the ride, skip ahead. Fair warning, but yeah, essentially you're dispatched out of the station to sort of essentially fanfare, if you will, into a pre-show section, which I believe it shows the King of Novgorod, sort of telling you the story of what's going on and such. It was all in German, unfortunately, so we didn't understand a word of it, and it is done quite quick. You then move on to a second scene which shows it's an enchantress or something like that working on fire. The train then moves around the corner, does a very sharp dive, very much like Saw's first drop,
but a bit steeper.
Yeah, it feels like a bit steeper, and then it goes straight into a launch section. So you get and then boom,
you're into a rolling launch.
I would say sitting in the queue line, it feels exactly like someone's got behind you, pushed you, and then kicked you. And it's wonderful, is that, because that's the point where you take the photos taken as well. I'll put our first photo on here because it perfectly describes the what the hell just happened moment sort of thing. It then goes into a series of things that you see outside. You get a top hat as well as airtime hill, as well as a pretzel roll, which is pretty cool. And then there's an inversion into the second thing, which is where the chain lift is. Takes you up a vertical chain lift. There is a little bit of a show on
the lift hill,
on the lift hill as you're going up. Not quite as extensive as Kärnan's, but still, it's something worth noting. Then you do the vertical drop, or beyond vertical drop, in the dark, as well as a few twists and turns and stuff like that. And I found it very disorientating.
Yeah, first time round it was a bit disorientating. Second time round, because I knew what to expect, I was a bit better prepared for it. And yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful little coaster. Absolutely love that. I'd quite happily ride that over Kärnan, if I'm honest.
They are both. Both Kärnan and Novgorod are both excellent coasters. They are reasons to visit alone, as well as all the other things that we're going to be talking about. But for those of you who just joined us, that was Kärnan. Bloody brilliant is that one. So that's Kärnan. That's Novgorod in fact.
Yeah.
So the next attraction we're going to talk about, which is right out of the exit of Novgorod, and I'm not going to cock that one up again. It was Novgorod we were talking about. Is Barcos del Mare. Yeah,
and it's a little fun sort of family ride. You get in a little car with a side
motorbike with a side ship.
Yeah, you have a side ship. Yeah. Basically, sort of ride spins round. You control whether the arm goes in or out. Absolutely fun ride. Bit disconcerting because you genuinely go in, do Novgorod, and come out into the Costa del Mare essentially.
Yeah.
And you are sat there going, well, hang on. I was in deepest, darkest kind of medieval England a minute ago. Now I'm not. Right? It's a bit disconcerting, it's lovely.
Deepest, darkest Russia. That's where Novgorod is. But anyway, you are you're big, scary, and then all of a sudden, essentially Costa del Mare. But yeah, that ride's great. It's one of those things like in 360 at Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach. There's interactivity on it. You can just sit and leave the ride to do its thing, or you can move the steering wheel to control, as Tracy says, how much it goes in and out. It's made by Technical Park. It's not something a company I know an awful lot about, because to be honest, I thought it'd have been Zamperla or something like that. But no, it's Technical Park, and really, really good fun.
Yeah.
Be back into it. That should probably help. But I'm watching Midgard. All right.
Get some speed up. So, we are here in the Viking area that borders on the back of Kärnan and Kärnapolten. And there is nothing at Hansa Park that they haven't thought of family-friendly rides. The whole park is littered with play areas, bouncy castles, splash zones, and just general things that your children can get up to, whilst the bigger ones are on the thrill-seeking rides. We're just stood in front of the junior log flume, and as you can see in the middle there is a Viking boat which your kids can go over and play in via a little bridge. One of the other things I also do like about this park is a couple of these features here. As you can see, like that is the ride, that is the runoff from the ride, and you can genuinely walk across this and interact with it, and it's an absolutely wonderful bit of theming. It's a bit of play and it's a bit out there, and I love it.
So besides Kärnan in this area of attractions, there's two others that are sort of noteworthy. Sorry, one being Midgard, which is another little Gerstlauer junior coaster, themed around Vikings and such. And it's, once again, as we said with Novgorod, the attention to detail that they've put into these things is it's spectacular to some extent. Even for a kids coaster, which could be completely forgettable, they've put in a little pre-show section.
Little pre-show, yeah.
You've got opening and closing doors as the train departs the station and things like that. Yeah, it's just really sort of pleasantly done. Well thought out.
Yeah, it's a lovely little ride. It's dead comfortable as well. And the operator we had on this morning when we first went on, he was brilliant. Yeah. Like we got around 2 or 3 times on it.
Yeah, and
which was good because it has a photo on. So yeah.
Yeah, and he made it seem like we've got a test to pass or something like that. He spoke to us initially in German, but then spoke to us in English, and it essentially was like, what do you want, sort of thing. Like, can we go on the ride? And it was like, and then, please. Oh, okay, it's just little things like that just make it a bit more fun. So that's Midgard.
Yeah.
The other attraction that's in the area besides Kärnan and Midgard is there, Kärnapulten, which is a Gerstlauer Skyfly, very similar to Red Arrows at Blackpool Pleasure Beach or Pixarus that we've had a go on as well. Yeah. But unlike Red Arrows and Pixarus, this one you can get some mean spin on it. I managed to get it into that sort of perfect routine where you hold the wings in place and it just keeps you spinning. I managed 17 before I threw the towel in. Tracy managed a grand total of
0, because I'm not a big fan of spinning on these. But this one though is super comfortable. Unlike Pixarus and Red Arrows, which on the drop down they feel like they can have a bit of a pull. This one doesn't, and it's super comfortable. So even if you don't like them much, and you, like me, you don't like doing the spin, just come on and have a go, because it's just a genuinely nice ride, is it?
Just as that, it's just about to go as well. So yeah, really, really good fun. I really do like these interactive rides, especially like that one, Lightning 360, and the technical park one we talked about earlier on. So yeah, that's Kärnapulten.
Kärnapulten.
Go. Is she gonna make it? She made it. That's really cool. So next one we're going to talk about is, was it Crazy Mine?
Crazy Mine, yep.
Which will kill you. It's a Mauro wild mouse, very similar to in fact it is Rattlesnake. Yeah. But it makes Rattlesnake seem smooth by comparison, doesn't it? The cars are very tight, so I found that when I was in the front, my knees were against the restraint sort of thing. Then I got myself braced for doing the usual zigzag section, and that's not too bad. Neither are the hills, but by God, that brake run at the end.
Yeah, I didn't think the brake run on this was as bad as Rattlesnakes on Chesington. However, the rest of the ride for me, because I was in the back of the car, was on the uncomfortable side, and I love my Crazy Mice. I would quite happily, this is one coaster I'll sit on and rinse and rinse and rinse. But even today, I've sat here with this one and gone, nope, well and done, this is good enough for me.
Yeah, no, that was quite brutal, was that? And the train's just pulling up behind us as well. That was quite a brutal mouse, was that one. So, yeah, one and done. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
back again, new ride update.
We are, yep.
This time we're in the beautiful Britain area to talk about Nessie and Royal Scotsman.
Yeah.
And Highlander, which I did earlier on in the day. So I'll quickly talk about Highlander, because I did it, not Tracy. And it's the tallest freestanding drop tower in the world. In fact, there it is. And it's quite a thrill. It takes a long time to get up there, and when you're up there, Tracy was recording it, something like that. It took, what was it, something like 2 minutes at the top?
Yeah, roughly 2 minutes to get up there. You're at the top for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes near enough, before they even start the drop. So
yeah, so it's mental, is that you're up there for quite so long. I managed, because it rotates as you go up, and I managed to get a park view essentially. So it was great because I could see where all the things were that were going to be having to go on later on in the day. But yeah, the drop really quite thrilling. Lasts probably about as long as you would expect for being as tall as what it is. You drop and you think, wow, it's still going, sort of thing. So yeah, Highlander is definitely one of those, not for the faint of heart, but certainly a great drop tower. There's not just Highlander in the area though, there is also Nessie, which is a Schwarzkopf looper from 1980, so it's 44 years old this year. And for a 44-year-old coaster, it runs incredibly well.
Yeah, if you're first time goers on this, front of the train, middle of the train, we did back of the train on our first go this morning, and we both got ejector airtime on one hill, which for Dave was quite painful. For me was like, well, okay, I did not expect to come 6 inches out of my seat.
Yeah, phenomenally great coaster though. Doesn't do it's not got a massive amount of elements. It's like helix and a loop, but what it does great.
Yeah.
And as you probably just heard in the background there, it makes a lot of noise as well. So when you come into the final brake run, it batters around on the track, but it's not uncomfortable. It just makes a lot of noise, and I like that about it.
And as you're coming into the station, it wobbles quite a bit and makes quite a bit of noise as well.
Yeah,
but it's a lovely little ride.
Yeah, lovely little ride is Nessie. So that's Nessie.
And the other ride in the area is the Royal Scotsman, which is a Vekoma Junior mine train, which is based on the Flying Scotsman train that we've obviously got back.
Hey, we got there. That's like all 4 takes to get that. Another sort of comfortable ride is this one. It's not going to blow your mind. It's not Fantasyland, Colorado Adventure levels of insane, but it's good for kids and adults. We've enjoyed it. Very comfortable, and it looks really, really pretty.
It does. It looks really, really pretty. When you're in the station, you've got smoke coming out of its funnel, and as it leaves the station, it does a little toot as well, which is absolutely lovely to see. And as you go up the lift hill and down the first essentially drop turn, you go through the loop of Nessie, which, even though you very rarely get the two going through in tandem, so bear that in mind if you're photographing.
Photographing.
But yeah, it's an absolutely lovely ride, and it is properly adorable.
Yeah, and as we remarked as we're going over the hill and round, there's not a lot of clearance. You would think that if you were in the back row of Royal Scotsman, you put your hands up, you could possibly touch the people if they put their hands out in Nessie. Really, really cool thing to see. I like it when they've got stuff like that, because it's not a very common thing having a track, let alone another coaster, go through a loop. So yeah, that's Nessie, Royal Scotsman and Highlander of the beautiful Britain area. I don't think you'll be able to see this on camera, but this is something called a Spezi. After Nessie's done making a racket, Spezi is a German drink, which is essentially Coca-Cola and Fanta mixed together. It's peculiar, but it works. So yeah, if you're ever out this way, have a go at one of these.
Ist beeindruckend, 120 Meter hoch, fällt 103 Meter tief und hat sogenannte Tilted Seats, 30 Grad Rückenstellung.
The next two that we're going to talk about are in the same area, but they're completely different themed actually. One is called Space Race, which is a for intents purposes, it's a dodgems with a shooting element to it, which is incredibly unique to my knowledge. And I know that we went on one at Gulliver's once, but that had guns where you physically shot the cars. The idea here is that you're in a car that's got essentially a gun on the front, and you have to shoot targets around the side of the thing, and you've got to get them in the quickest time possible, also while being on a dodgems.
Yeah.
Incredibly unique, great soundtrack I noticed as well, yeah.
Yeah, really fun soundtrack. I absolutely love that. I don't know if I wasn't doing it right, but I only got 2 planets.
Yeah, because planets, that was the idea, that you had to shoot the planets.
Yeah.
So you got Mercury, Venus, Earth, etc, etc. So you had 9 to get. It took me 2 minutes and 1 second to do them, but the world record, or the record for this year is 17 seconds. So how somebody's done that, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But that's Space Race. And then the next one is, I think it's pronounced Wellenreiter. Which translates to surfer of all things, which is a Hus Troika, so it's a full-size Troika. First one of these I've ever done. We have done one called Scorpion at Travelling Fair, but this one is your permanent installation, and short cycle, but it's pretty much exactly what I wanted from it.
Yeah, and it's genuinely one of them. It's a step up from a waltzer stroke, a twister. So if you're looking for that next step, this is kind of what you want to be looking towards, because it goes round in pretty much the same sort of cycle as what waltzers and also your twisters do, but it's not too intense, but the cars wobble. Yeah,
as you'll see from the video, troikas are a rarer attraction now. I think a lot of parks have removed them. Thorpe Park used to have one, but that's obviously gone now. It's a bit of a shame, because these ones, I think so many parks have got things like Twisty at Flambers at Alton Towers as a twister. Sod that, get a Troika. Troikas are so much more exciting to look at in my opinion. But yeah, that's Wellenreiter.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to talk about is another unique ride to Hansa Park, and it's called the Pony Express. Now, it is your standard sit-on pony ride, goes round. However, this is fixed with guns, so you've got targets to shoot at as you go around, delivering essentially the Pony Express, and you can pretend you're a cowboy. It is in the western area, so it does make a bit of sense, but it was an absolute lot of fun for a kid's ride.
It's a unique take on what is essentially what's it, the Viking one, Sleipnir at Drake Manor. Imagine that, only it's got guns on it and targets to shoot, and that's it. It's obviously dated, but I had a great time on it. You had a great time on it. It was.
And there was only 30 points in it, and as you go around and shoot stuff, if you've activated it, something does happen usually.
So there might be an animatronic that moves, or a lot of the time there was just water that squirted. But it was still really good fun. Was that?
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to be any worse than the one Storm Surge at Thorpe Park. So the next set of rides that we're going to talk about are the water rides that we went on, starting with Wild Wasserfahrt, which is translates to Wild Water Ride, which I've just been reading up is an aerodynamics water at Log Flume, which knocks it up a couple of notches in my eyes, because it's not just your standard sort of Mack or Intamin or whatever. It's it's a one from the old days. But other than that, quite unremarkable. 2 drops sort of special. First drop got us quite wet, second drop didn't get us wet at all.
No, it's got a photo on it, and the car we were in actually had a special seat for smaller children, which I thought was a really unique thing, because even with water coasters in the UK and log flumes, we don't get them. And so if you've got smaller ones with you, they can genuinely go on, sit in the middle, someone can sit behind them and hold them in.
We're completely safe,
really good.
And what I thought was quite, I suppose it's somewhat unique to this log flume, is the fact that the photo wasn't on the drops. It was after the splashdown, so it's the point where you've already sort of celebrated I've not got wet, and then it takes a photograph of you, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, bit unique.
Then the next one is Super Splash, which is, from the looks of it, it's built by the park themselves. I thought it was an Intamin boat ride, I don't know why, but it's exactly like a boat ride.
Yeah, and it's literally, it's up, it's round, it's down, and you do get splash. What I liked about it was that it does look very, very 1980s boat ride, and it rides in places like 1980s boat ride.
Yeah.
But that's part of its charm. And
Yeah.
I think it's a lovely little ride.
Yeah, and what's nice, and I suppose this is not just for here. This was also for Hyder Park, which I was going to put that out there. It's Hyder, not Heidi. I've been calling it Heidi, but anyway. That they clean the boats out, so they're squeegeeing the boats, so that the seats that you get onto are not wet, which is quite nice. But other than that, Super Splash wasn't really a super splash as such, but it was still a really nice sort of sit down and a pleasant ride nonetheless.
It was.
The final water ride that we're going to talk about was the one that we were saying, is this going to be better or worse than the one at Thorpe Park?
Yes.
Is Stortbecker's Kapperfahrt, which we've looked up and we don't really agree with the translation. It's translating to all sorts of things. So if you are German and you want to correct us on what the thing is, because it's something, I think it's something to do with Captain Becker's Wild Ride or something like that, but it's not. Anyway, the ride itself, quite remarkable, much better than Storm Surge at Thorpe Park though.
Yes, because you're not in 6 inches of water the instant you get in the boat, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And like, there's no overhead like little bits like they have got on Storm Surge at Thorpe Park.
Yeah, it's not
But I
designed
don't
to
think
soak
it
you.
needs it.
No, it's just a nice lift out of the way, a couple of helixes and then into a little splashdown, which doesn't get you wet until the water splashes back at you, and then it does get you wet.
Yeah, because it's a little bit of a rapidsy splash down, but it's nothing too major, and it's a lovely little ride.
Yeah, and what I like about it is, unlike Thorpe Parks, and I don't want to keep bashing Thorpe Park here, but Storm Surge is right in the middle of the way. It looks unsightly. This one's at the edge of the park. It's got green track to sort of blend in with the scenery. It just looks the part.
It does, yeah.
So yeah, that one's all right. Was that one?
It is, yeah. Oh, right, oh yeah.
And here we are in the car.
Yeah.
After what has been a spectacular day at Hansa Park.
Yeah.
It's been dead, which has really helped, I think. So it's
Yeah.
probably a bit unfair to say, Hansa Park's been amazing, because we've walked onto every ride.
We have, yeah. I think we've literally only waited like 10-15 minutes for our second go round on
Novgorod.
Novgorod.
Novgorod, yeah. Other than that, I was straight on this morning on Kärnan, straight onto the pony trek and all the water rides and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been wonderful because it's been quiet. But I think even if it had been busy, it would have still been a wonderful park, because I feel like that the operations here are in some ways excellent, but in other ways not so good.
Yeah.
But the not so good won't take away from speed.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because a lot of well, pretty much every ride that we went on, the staff are not allowed to push onto the restraints. I don't know why it is here, but like Tracy sometimes has a bit of trouble on with the Goslar restraints. And the staff were saying, can you pull on it? So I had to sort of press down. Once we got the green tick, that was it. They then just checked the restraint, and that's it.
Yeah.
They said they're not allowed to press on to people, and I presume that that's for a health and safety thing, to make sure they're not hurting people, which is a bit sort of weird, but it's one of those quirks.
Yeah.
Park itself presented beautifully.
Yeah. Everything was clean, everything was sparkling. If you didn't know better, you'd be saying that park opened last week. It's that kind of new, and it's an absolutely wonderful park, and it genuinely is the epitome of family parks. You can bring everyone here. You can bring your gran because there's a bench every 20 foot. You can bring your little ones because there's stuff for them to do all over the place. As we previously said, the park is littered with play structures, with bouncy castles, with play areas, with climbing frames and everything for smaller kids to do while the bigger kids are on the bigger rides.
Yeah.
But even that though, there are plenty of younger kids rides here that they can go do as well. And it's an absolutely brilliant park to that extent. That extent. It's pretty. It's
Yeah, there's so much to enjoy here. Everyone's catered for. There's no IPs.
yeah.
So that's interesting. There's nothing. There's no Peppa Pig. There's no Disney or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's all their own thing, and I really really like that. The only thing that I saw in the park that was even remotely outside was something to do with Hamburg Maritime Museum.
Yeah.
But it fits in with the theme because Hansa Park. I presume that the whole area of Hansa has a nautical history because that park was constantly, on about ships and sailing and
Boats
things
and
like
sailing,
that. Yeah, and I liked that. It was great because it was unique in that regard.
Yeah.
Touching on to merchandise. Merchandise was very good.
Yes.
But not amazing, which is about one of the few sort of negatives that I can sort of say about the park. Because there's no pin. Well, the pin badges that we did see were very generic. They didn't have Hansa Park on them.
Yeah.
Then there were only like animals, and there was only like 5
Yeah.
of them, sort of thing, which is a bit of a shame because I'd love to have come away with a Hansa pin. But
You've got t-shirts, mugs. You can do a full-on pretty much school run for pretty much every one of the big rides. So Highlander, Novgorod, Kärnan,
Novgorod, Kärnan,
Midgard as well.
Midgard got some. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen something for Nessie. I think you said that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you wanted to pick something up, but there wasn't anything, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, the stuff that we've got has been nice. You probably see some of it in the back. Got some cushions and soundtrack CDs and all sorts of
And
stuff.
a towel.
Yeah, towel.
Hansa Parks also do their own towels, which is really good.
And bags.
Yeah, that's one of the things we did notice today, is that Hansa Park is set up for essentially a resort hotel, because there's waterproofs you can buy. Essentially, you can go in and buy a full wardrobe if you wanted
Yeah,
to.
you could get socks. I don't think I saw any underwear, but you could definitely get water shoes, trainers, all sorts.
Ponchos.
Your t-shirts and your jackets and things like that. But touching on from that, because the merchandise was good but not amazing, but there's no hotel.
No, there is no hotel. They are building something right in the middle of the plaza near enough, and they're calling it their best kept secret, and it's hopefully going to open next year. And looking at it at the moment, could easily be a hotel. And if it is, and if it's done as well as the rest of the park, we will probably be doing another video staying here, I would have thought.
Yeah. So that's merchandise and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
That leads us quite nicely into sort of negatives, of which there are very few, and we are nitpicking. As I say, no hotel. That would have been amazing because we would have stayed here. I wouldn't have realised at the time, but yeah, I would quite happily have cancelled our next hotel booking to stay here.
Yeah.
Merchandise is not quite as extensive as I'd like.
Yeah.
But I still spent the most here that I've spent at any park so far, including Fantasyland. So that sort of goes to spades. And there's no dedicated dark ride, but I don't really think that's such a bad thing, since Kärnan and Novgorod kind of fill that void.
Yeah. So we're meaning there's no singular interactive dark ride,
or like
i.e. sort of Curse or Sheriff Showdown, that kind of situation.
Something like that. But all the bases are covered. If you want something that's interactive, you've got Pony Express, and you've got the Dodgems. If you want something that's got a bit of story to it, you've got Kärnan and Novgorod. It'd be nice if they mixed them all together and you got a ride vehicle that, like Ghostbusters, essentially, like that was yesterday. Something like that would be excellent. But no, I don't think it needs anything.
Yeah.
I just want more of it. So that's kind of it for the negatives. I'm blown away by Hansa Park, and Hansa Park was one of the parks that I was really, really looking forward to. Just like in a couple of days' time, I'm going to another park I'm really looking forward to. But this one was the highlight because of Kärnan, and Kärnan exceeded expectations. Novgorod exceeded expectations. Highlander was great. Nessie was great.
The food's been really nice quality as well, and it's not overpriced. It's good value for money, because that's one thing we haven't covered yet. Not really. We did get fish and chips, obviously, for lunch, as you've seen, but that come with a sauce and a drink for €12.
Yeah,
which
it's a damn sight cheaper than the other places that we've been to, and it was tasty as well and quite filling. So food offerings have been pretty good. Ride offerings are good. I haven't seen a single breakdown.
No.
All the staff have been pleasant. All the staff are fluent from what we understand in English, German, as well as Danish.
Yeah.
Because obviously we're really close to Denmark. No fault. The only thing I suppose the only thing that would have made this day perfect for me is if I could have recorded on the rides. But in the same regard, if they just said no, we don't need to record on the rides because we want to keep them a secret.
Yeah.
That's even better because it's worth coming to here. Don't look at POVs. Just come here and do it yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's such a good park. A definite underrated gem and well worth the money.
Yeah. We paid €49 each for a day ticket. We've paid €6 for parking. And it's dead. It was fairly simple to find as well.
Yeah.
It's so if you are coming, you are driving, you don't worry too much about that. It is quite easy to find, and you can see the skyline probably from the motorway as you're going past as well.
Yeah, it amazed me how much you could see a Kärnan from the road. Because I don't know why I'd got it in my mind it was like Fantasyland in that it was built around sort of a town and sort of sunk down, but no, it's right there. It's very proud. It seems like the locals are kind of happy with it as well. I've not heard any issues with noise and things like that.
Exactly, yeah, and the beach is literally only 10 minutes down the road because we went and found it this morning, so you could genuinely plan a whole holiday around here if you wanted to.
Yeah, and what with Hansa Park down the road, Hamburg an hour away. Yeah, it's incredibly accessible. Flying to Hamburg, get here. It's well worth your time. So before I waffle on too much about it and the GoPro melts, I'm going to leave with that. That's Loops and Lapbars. Tracy and Dave signing out from Hansa Park. Until next time. Next one of these will be at Slagharen. So I look forward to that one, another new park.
Bye.